Welcome back to the Deep Dive, the place where we take that fire hose of information, all the articles, the financials, the deep research, and really try to distill it down to the essential, the surprising, and, the truly memorable insights you need to know.
And today we are tackling a massive subject. I mean,
Yeah.
a true global giant.
A giant whose products are, and this is no exaggeration, in nearly every hospital, every research lab, and clinic around the world.
We are talking about Becton, Dickinson and Company, or as pretty much everyone knows them, just BD.
Exactly. And our listener provided us with this fascinating stack of sources, really detailing BD's, century-plus history?
A century plus, yeah, and it's almost incomprehensible financial scale. And critically, the really complex and often controversial track record that just comes with operating at that level.
So our mission today isn't just to list off the things they make. We want to move beyond the simple product, beyond the syringe or the basic lab tube, and understand the sheer, overwhelming scale of this American multinational medical technology powerhouse. This is a company that is, it's foundational to our global healthcare infrastructure.
And that infrastructure is enormous. You see, BD isn't just a device manufacturer anymore. They are a sophisticated provider of systems.
What does that mean exactly? A provider of systems?
It means they're producing the big instrument systems. They're providing the specific differentiated chemical reagents you need to run those systems.
The consumables.
The consumables, exactly. And now they're branching heavily into these high-value consulting and analytics services. They are selling the entire operating solution, not just the hardware.
Okay, so to give everyone a quick scale check, and this is really important because it anchors our later discussion on corporate responsibility. BD was founded way, way back in 1897 in New York City, later moved its headquarters to Franklin Lakes, New Jersey.
Right. But let's look at their modern financial footprint. The numbers we have are based on the fiscal year 2025 updates.
And the revenue figure alone is just staggering. They're reporting, US $21.8 billion in annual revenue?
$21.8 billion. And to put that into perspective for you, that figure is more than the annual GDP of some small nations. It's a colossal amount of money.
And that, nearly $22 billion in revenue sits on top of US $55.3 billion in total assets.
$55.3 billion. This is not a company that can afford to fail. It's an integrated, systemic giant. It employs 72,000 people globally.
And they're a key component of the S&P 500, traded as NYSE, BDX. They're ranked high on the 2024 Fortune 500 list, coming in at number 211.
Right, based on their 2023 performance. The sheer magnitude of their business means every single decision they make, from a tiny manufacturing change to a huge legal settlement, has global implications.
So what we are really teasing out today is this central tension. It's the contract between that long, stable history and their extremely aggressive modern growth strategy.
A strategy built on these mega acquisitions.
Exactly. And the significant safety, legal, and ethical challenges that have repeatedly come along with that explosive growth. It's really the story of a necessary provider whose quest for dominance has often put it into conflict with regulators and competitors.
You've hit it right there. We're looking at a critical piece of healthcare that is, at the same time, managing world-leading green initiatives and also high-stakes safety recalls.
So let's start right where the money and the power truly began to diverge from that original 1897 vision. Let's get into Section 1 then. The foundation and the financial engines of growth. You mentioned the 1897 founding by Maxwell Becton and Fairleigh S. Dickinson, which, established them as a reliable medical supplier.
A very reliable supplier, yes. But the BDD we're analyzing today is really a creature of the 21st century. It's a product of its aggressive merger and acquisition strategies.
That's absolutely right. The early history provides the foundation, but the BD of today, this multi-billion-dollar entity, is primarily the result of what you so aptly called the acquisition as expansion strategy.
They've used capital to just absorb entire technologies, to eliminate major competitors, and to instantly gain market leverage rather than, relying on slow organic growth.
And we can trace this with some really key data points from our sources. The first major modern era move detailed here came in 2014. That's when BD acquired CareFusion.
And this wasn't a cheap buy-in. Not at all.
No.
That acquisition was valued at a huge US $12.2 billion in cash and stock.
$12.2 billion. And what did CareFusion specialize in?
Their world was medication management and patient safety technologies. So this acquisition, it immediately amplified BD's presence inside the hospital workflow. It instantly made BD indispensable in whole new areas of the hospital.
But as you pointed out earlier, that turned out to be just the warm-up act.
It really was.
The defining event, the one that truly cemented BD's status as a mega power, was the 2017 acquisition of C.R. Bard.
That is the deal that completely reshaped the company's structural DNA. The price tag on C.R. Bard was a monumental US $24 billion.
$24 billion, that's not just buying a company.
No, that's integrating two massive, complicated healthcare operations under one giant umbrella. C.R. Bard became a wholly owned subsidiary, and its product lines are now woven throughout BD's current three business segments.
And the strategy is clearly still in play. Just this year, in 2024, our sources note BD announced another major expansion.
That's right, they're acquiring Edwards Lifesciences' critical care unit.
For how much?
$4.2 billion. So they are continuously seeking out these high-value specialized units to either dominate a niche or fill a crucial gap in their portfolio.
So if you look at this strategy, this spending spree, $12.2 billion, $24 billion, $4.2 billion, you realize they're playing a game of total market control.
That's the goal, to be the single source for the widest possible range of medical needs, from the simplest disposable product to the most complex diagnostic machine.
This is where the financial data tells a truly compelling story, because it connects that aggressive strategy directly to their current financial stature.
It's a straight line.
If we look at their annual revenue figures before and after that C.R. Bard acquisition, the effect is just dramatic.
Okay, so prior to the 2017 deal, Becton Dickinson reported an annual revenue of US $12.093 billion, a respectable, massive company by any measure.
Right, about $12 billion. Then the C.R. Bard deal closes, and almost instantaneously we see that figure just jump.
It skyrockets. By 2018, BD's revenue had vaulted to nearly $16 billion. And today, like we said, we're talking about $21.8 billion for fiscal year 2025.
That's nearly a doubling of revenue in what, roughly 8 years?
8 years, yeah. And the steepest inflection point is tied directly to those two massive acquisitions. It's an undeniable proof point that this strategy is built on absorbing external growth rather than waiting for internal organic expansion.
For investors, that model is pure speed and market leverage.
Absolutely. But managing a structure that complex with these continuous integration challenges, it requires very specific leadership.
Our sources highlight Tom Polen, who is the chairman, CEO, and president, and he works alongside Christopher DeLorifus, who's the chief financial officer.
And they are tasked with integrating these huge disparate entities while maintaining a positive image for a market capitalization that has frequently topped $60 billion.
It sounds like a tightrope walk.
It is a tightrope walk. You're trying to satisfy the investor appetite for growth, which demands speed and efficiency, while you're simultaneously dealing with the operational nightmare of merging supply chains, quality control systems, corporate cultures.
And often, as we're about to see, that tension between speed and control, it leads to friction.
A lot of friction.
And that friction often manifests in legal challenges, which brings us to the famous syringe wars. This is such a critical anecdote because it tells us that BD's pursuit of market dominance wasn't always ethical.
No, and this was happening even in the early 2000s, long before they hit that $21 billion mark. It's a foundational story about market access and safety innovation.
So what happened?
Back in 2004, BD faced some very serious allegations from a company called Retractable Technologies, a smaller competitor.
And what did they make?
They had developed syringes designed to prevent needle stick injury, a crucial safety innovation in healthcare, especially for nurses and doctors.
So Retractable alleged that BD had engaged in, what, blatant anti-competitive behavior.
That was the claim. Essentially, they were accused of using their immense market power, their deep relationships with hospitals and distributors, to prevent or severely restrict the distribution of retractable, safer syringes.
To keep a safer product off the market.
That was the allegation. And the outcome? Well, it speaks volumes about the evidence. BD agreed to pay a US $100 million settlement to resolve it.
$100 million? That's not just a cost of doing business.
No. It's a public admission of the seriousness of attempts to stifle innovation, especially innovation designed to protect frontline healthcare workers.
I find that detail particularly damning. A $100 million settlement that suggests they actively tried to keep a safer product out of the hands of nurses and doctors. It puts the pursuit of profit directly against the imperative of public health and worker safety.
And the conflicts didn't even stop with the settlement.
What happened next?
But once BD was kind of forced to respond to this market need for safety syringes, they released a retractable needle of their own.
And let me guess.
Retractable Technologies subsequently accused BD of patent infringement. It just escalated the legal drama.
So we have a sequence here. block the competitor's safer product, pay $100 million to settle, then face accusations that your own eventual safety product infringed on the competitor's patents.
It suggests an almost relentless pursuit of eliminating any competitive advantage, even if it requires substantial legal risk and, huge payouts.
And the conflict went even deeper, right?
Right.
Into marketing claims.
It did. The sources noted a claim by Retractable that BD was falsely advertising its own brand of retractable needle as the world's sharpest needle.
The world's sharpest needle. That detail shows the incredible competitive intensity. It's not enough to be safe or effective. They felt they had to claim an absolute superior marketing position.
Which in turn led to allegations of false advertising. It just confirms that the commercial stakes in this supposedly altruistic industry are incredibly, incredibly aggressive.
So the takeaway from this first section is really that the financial powerhouse BD is today fueled by, over $40 billion worth of major acquisitions, has this historical precedent for prioritizing market control.
Even if that means navigating multi-million-dollar legal settlements and protracted battles over the very basics of product safety and fair play, this early conduct, it really sets the context for the serious compliance issues we're going to discuss later.
Okay, that financial backstory and legal context are crucial. Let's move on to section 2 and really drill down into the products themselves. If BD is this global giant, how is that $21 billion empire actually structured? You mentioned they operate in 3 core business segments.
Oh, that's right. The empire is very logically divided into 3 primary pillars that ensure they touch the patient, the diagnostics, and the research workflow. You've got BD Medical, BD Life Sciences, and BD Interventional.
So let's start with pillar 1, BD Medical. This is the segment most people would instinctively recognize, I think. It covers the ubiquitous, high-volume products of immediate patient care.
Exactly. BD Medical handles the core instruments you'd see every single day. They're manufacturing and distributing essential medical and surgical products like needles, syringes, IV access devices, and of course, the vital disposal units required for safe handling.
So this is drug delivery, vaccination infrastructure, basic sample collection all over the world.
That's the heart of it. But, and this is the crucial nuance that validates their huge revenue,
Go on.
BD Medical isn't just a manufacturing shop. The sources emphasize that this segment also offers high-value consulting and analytics services.
Now, this is key to their modern profitability.
It absolutely is. By offering consulting, BD is leveraging its massive proprietary data set on product usage and workflow efficiency. They're primarily targeting large organizations, hospitals, integrated healthcare systems, large provider networks.
So what exactly are they consulting on? Is it as simple as selling advice on where to put the disposal units?
Oh, it's far more strategic than that. They're selling efficiency models, workflow optimization based on clinical data, supply chain management strategies. Imagine a hospital network spending millions and millions annually on BD equipment.
Okay.
BD can then sell that network an integrated solution that optimizes the usage and reduces waste. Of course, using BD's own products more efficiently.
Ah, so they move from a pure transactional relationship to something more embedded.
Exactly, an embedded partnership. It deepens the dependence on their ecosystem and moves them up the value chain toward recurring revenue from intellectual services, not just physical goods.
That makes the shift from a simple hardware company to an integrated solutions provider very, very clear. Okay, moving to pillar 2. We find BD Life Sciences. This segment feels like a massive leap into the complex, cutting-edge side of medicine.
It is. This is where the high-tech, high-margin revenue streams are secured. It's organized into 2 parts, biosciences and integrated diagnostic solutions. And this segment covers the entire spectrum, from initial sample handling to, complex molecular biology.
Let's expand on the incredible breadth of the offerings here because it truly highlights BD's scope. It spans from basic sample handling all the way to advanced immunological research tools.
Okay, so starting at the very beginning, they provide pre-analytical solutions for sample management. Now, this might sound mundane.
But it's critical.
It is the single most important step for accurate testing. If the pre-analytical stage fails, if the sample is collected or stored incorrectly, the most sophisticated lab test in the world is worthless.
And then we move to the incredibly advanced tools. They're deeply involved in immunology research, providing sophisticated tools like flow cytometry and multiomics instruments.
This is a critical area. Flow cytometry, for those who haven't spent time in a research setting, is essentially high-speed analysis and sorting of microscopic particles, usually cells.
How does it work?
It uses lasers to measure the characteristics of thousands of cells per second. And BD provides not only the expensive, sophisticated instrumentation, but also the specialized reagents, the chemical keys, if you will, required to tag and identify those cells.
So they own the machine and the fuel.
That's a great way to put it. And then you mentioned multiomics.
What exactly is that?
Multiomics refers to the comprehensive integrated study of multiple biological data sets all at the same time. The genome, so DNA, the transcriptome, which is RNA, the proteome, proteins, and the metabolome, which is small molecules.
So this is the absolute cutting edge of precision medicine and discovery research.
It is. And by providing these tools, BD positions itself at the very foundation of all future drug discovery and personalized medicine development.
And that segment also covers core diagnostics, right? Microbiology and molecular testing.
Exactly. This includes all the tests and instruments needed for identifying pathogens, which is critical for infectious disease monitoring and hospital infection control, and performing high-throughput genetic and molecular testing.
And wrapping up that life sciences portfolio, we see the inclusion of lab automation and informatics. That speaks directly to the need for speed and efficiency in modern centralized labs.
Well, when you are processing millions of tests a day, human handling is just impossible. So BD provides systems for automated sample handling and result management. That's the informatics part.
They're designing the digital highways for the data.
They are. They're building the infrastructure that allows these huge volumes of diagnostic data to be generated, stored, and analyzed instantly. So BD Life Sciences is essentially equipping the entire global diagnostic and scientific research infrastructure. That's a key driver of that $21 billion revenue.
Finally, let's talk about Pillar 3, BD Interventional. This segment handles specific devices used in specialized procedures and, fascinatingly, is responsible for a product line that has become a generic term for its category.
This is a fun example that really speaks volumes about market penetration. This segment is responsible for the popular plastic conical screw-top test tubes, the ones every school kid and every PhD knows.
The Falcon tube.
The Falcon tubes.
The classic Falcon tube. You cannot walk into a laboratory anywhere in the world without seeing one.
Precisely. The brand name Falcon Tubes is so dominant, so ubiquitous, due to the popularity of BD's product line, that it's often used as a generic term for any conical screw-top test tube, regardless of the actual manufacturer.
It's like saying Kleenex instead of tissue.
Or Band-Aid instead of adhesive bandage. It means BD's brand is synonymous with the basic, fundamental unit of laboratory work.
So when you put it all together, BD is structured to cover the entire patient journey. BD Medical handles the immediate care interface and efficiency.
BD Life Sciences manages the analytical engine and future research.
And BD Interventional covers specialized procedural equipment and the basic lab infrastructure. It's a beautifully constructed vertical monopoly built on acquisitions and pervasive market presence. That scale is certainly impressive. Now we turn to Section 3, the Corporate Responsibility Report Card. When a company is this large, $21 billion in revenue, 72,000 employees, its impact, both positive and negative, is just amplified.
It is. And we see a truly jarring contradiction in BD's track record. The juxtaposition is impossible to ignore.
How so?
Well, on one hand, BD has clearly invested heavily in environmental stewardship and social performance, often leading the field. On the other, they have faced these profound legal and safety penalties that directly affected workers and patients.
Let's look at the positive side first, which, as you say, is substantial.
It is. The sources show they've racked up some significant, verifiable environmental achievements that point to a genuine commitment at the highest level.
For example,
By 2010, they were ranked 18th in the EPA Fortune 500 list of green power purchasers.
18th. That rank tells you they weren't just dabbling in sustainability.
Not at all. It means they were making massive, measurable investments in purchasing renewable or low-impact energy sources to power their colossal manufacturing footprint. That requires serious corporate commitment and a lot of capital allocation.
And they received high marks from external analysts as well. In the 2009 Newsweek Green Rankings, which assesses the 500 largest American corporations, BD was listed among the top 100 overall.
They ranked 83rd, based on environmental performance, policies, and reputation. And if you narrow the field to just their industry, the healthcare sector, they place third.
Third in their entire sector. That is an extremely strong public signal that they were setting the benchmark for environmental policies among their direct competitors at that time.
And it goes further. They were consistently recognized in major global indices focused on long-term sustainability. They were a component of the Dow Jones Sustainability World Index for for 4 consecutive years.
And the Dow Jones Sustainability North America Index for 5 consecutive years.
And these inclusions are huge. Being listed on these indices requires ongoing, detailed performance assessments across environmental, social, and governance criteria. It suggests sustainability wasn't just a marketing campaign, it was integrated into their long-term business model.
Speaking of long-term business models, the sources highlighted their dedication to the concept of shared value.
Yes, where corporate operations create economic value in a way that also creates value for society by addressing its needs.
And the specific example they identified was their development of a needleless injection system.
Exactly. This innovation, while certainly a profit driver for BD Medical, simultaneously addresses a critical global health challenge: the massive risk of accidental needle stick injuries.
Especially in resource-limited settings where cross-contamination risks are high.
Right, so by reducing injury and disease transmission, they create social value alongside their economic value. It's a textbook case of creating shared value.
Now, if that were the full story, BD would be a model corporate citizen. But now we turn the page and look at the health and safety failures, the darker side, and the contradiction is jarring.
It is a company celebrated for its high-minded global green goals, facing serious penalties for fundamental operational failures.
The contrast is truly where this deep dive gets critical. You have this high-level commitment to saving the planet, but then you look at worker welfare.
And it's a different story. In April 2016, the Occupational Safety and Health Administration, OSHA, fined BD US $112,700 for workplace safety violations.
And the consequence of those failures was immediate and severe. OSHA cited BD for repeat and serious violations of health and safety law after 2 separate employees suffered partial finger amputations.
Just think about that operational disconnect. A company that spends billions globally on acquisitions and millions on sophisticated environmental compliance fails at the most basic level of protecting its own workers from catastrophic, preventable machinery accidents.
A fine of over $112,000 for repeat, serious violations leading to the loss of a worker's body part. It suggests a profound failure in basic operational priorities compared to their abstract environmental targets.
And then penalties only escalate when we look at patient safety and marketing integrity. This brings us back to C.R. Bard, that massive 2017 acquisition.
What happened there?
In 2020, BD and its newly acquired subsidiary, C.R. Bard Inc., they faced a major penalty. They were fined $60 million USD.
$60 million? For what?
For deceptive marketing related to the highly controversial transvaginal mesh devices. The core violation was a systemic failure to adequately inform patients, and perhaps even practitioners, about the serious, known health risks associated with these devices.
The transvaginal mesh litigation was a devastating chapter in medical device history. It affected countless women globally.
It did. And a $60 million fine for deceptive marketing implies that information about health risks was deliberately minimized or withheld. It strikes right at the heart of patient trust and the ethical obligations of a medical technology supplier.
And here's where the M&A strategy connects directly to the safety narrative.
Go on.
When BD bought C.R. Bard for $24 billion in 2017, they acquired Bard's assets, its market share, and its looming legal liabilities and ethical baggage.
That's right. The 2020 fine shows that BD absorbed not just revenue streams, but also profound systemic problems that the prior management had created.
So if you look at the pattern of the $100 million anti-competitive settlement, the $112,700 fine for worker amputations, and the $60 million fine for deceptive marketing, you see a constant high-cost pressure point.
And it's stemming from issues of control, integrity, and, prioritizing market leverage over safety. It creates a deeply complicated portrait of a necessary global entity.
That discussion of systemic failures leads us directly into Section 4. Critical product safety incidents and global recalls. Given that BD products are physically inserted into patients or used in these high-stakes diagnostic procedures, the consequence of any manufacturing deviation is immediate and potentially catastrophic.
Absolutely. The need for quality control is relentless. Even small percentages of failure can translate into massive exposure and danger when you're shipping millions of units worldwide. And BD's history includes several incidents that highlight the fragility of massive-scale production and global supply chains.
Let's start back in 2007 with the discarded to syringe incident in Poland. What was the origin of that failure?
So in mid-2007, hospitals and medical services in Poland reported a deeply disturbing discovery. They were finding remains of dark dust inside some of their sterile syringes from the discarded 2 series.
Dark dust in a syringe that's meant to be sterile? That's terrifying.
It is. It introduces the risk of injection site reactions, inflammation, or infection. The specific series, 0607186 and others, were withdrawn immediately.
And what did BD find when they investigated?
When BD conducted the necessary recall and testing, they determined that sterile particulates were present in a minuscule 0.013% of the recalled products.
That sounds like a tiny number.
It is, but this is the crucial context. When you produce millions and millions of syringes, 0.013% is still a significant number of contaminated devices being introduced into human bodies.
It demands a mass recall.
Absolutely. It demands halting distribution, and it damages trust, all due to a microscopic contaminant.
And that really sets the stage for the next, much larger incident that demonstrated the true global reach of BD's supply chain and the catastrophic potential of a manufacturing error.
You're talking about the 2010 Q-site Luer and fee catheter partial recall.
Exactly. This was a serious high-stakes event.
It was. The recall involves specific lots of the BD Q-site Luer access devices and the BD Nexiva closed fee catheter systems. These are central to administering intravenous fluids and medications.
And what was the life-threatening risk posed by the affected devices?
The official recall notice stated that due to the device defect, patients face the risk of air embolism or leakage of blood in therapy.
An air embolism, a bubble of air entering the bloodstream.
Which can lead to serious injury or death. This is not a contamination issue. This is a critical functional failure of the device itself.
And this incident is a perfect illustration of how BD scale amplifies risk. This wasn't a localized problem.
No, it involved millions of units distributed across the globe. The scope was immense, and it speaks to the difficulty of managing quality control across their massive production lines.
What were the numbers?
The voluntary partial recall affected approximately 2.8 million BD Q-site units and 2.9 million BD Nexiva units, which themselves contain 5 million Q-site devices.
And this huge volume was distributed where?
Everywhere. The U.S., Canada, Europe, Mexico, South America, Asia, the Middle East, South Africa. It was a true global health scare.
Nearly 6 million potentially fatal pieces of equipment requiring immediate identification and retrieval across multiple continents. What did BD cite as the mechanical failure here?
BD traced the failure back to a manufacturing deviation. They initiated the recall after receiving complaints about air entry through a specific part of the device.
But did they fix it?
They claimed to have corrected the deviation, but the incident demonstrated how quickly a localized production error can become a global crisis when you are the world's leading supplier of these products. It showed their ability to manage the logistics of a massive recall, but it simultaneously exposed the fragility of their manufacturing processes.
And if the 2010 event revealed manufacturing vulnerabilities, the 2021 recall revealed something perhaps even more disturbing.
A profound vulnerability in supply chain integrity that was deliberate and long-term.
That's the 2021 IV giving sets recall.
Right. And this was not a defect that originated on BD's assembly line. It was triggered by the discovery that a key supplier had actively falsified sterilization documents.
Falsified them.
And this egregious deception had gone undetected for a staggering 10 years.
10 years of false assurances regarding sterility for devices used in critical care settings. That means countless infusion sets, which must be pristine, were processed under questionable standards.
And the recall affected a wide swath of products essential to critical care delivery. Infusion sets for various Alaris pumps, standard gravity infusion sets, general connectors. These are the tools that deliver life-saving IV fluids and vital medications to the most vulnerable patients.
The reliance on a third-party supplier for something as fundamental as sterilization introduces a systemic risk that BD, as the final name on the product, ultimately bears the consequences of.
It makes you question the robustness of the auditing processes when a decade-long fraud can slip through the cracks of a $21 billion enterprise.
These 3 incidents, the dark dust particulates, the manufacturing flaw causing embolism risk, and the decade of sterilization fraud, they provide the sobering counterpoint to the positive social and environmental achievements.
It's a recurring pattern of high-level, high-impact risk management failures that accompany their relentless pursuit of scale and market dominance.
We've reached the end of our deep dive into the Becton, Dickinson and Company sources. Let's bring this all together with our outro, key takeaways, and a final thought.
The summary review, I think, shows a clear trajectory. BD starts as a stable 19th century startup and transforms into a $21 billion powerhouse through a calculated, aggressive acquisition strategy.
Right, they bought CareFusion, they bought CR Bard, and now Edwards Lifesciences Critical Care to ensure total market coverage.
And that immense power is deployed across three indispensable segments: BD Medical, focusing on efficiency and the patient interface;
BD Life Sciences, which owns that entire continuum from sample management to the high-stakes world of multiomics research and diagnostics.
and BD Interventional, which handles specialized equipment and even gives us that genericized household name, the Falcon tube.
But the central tension, the juxtaposition, is inescapable. This is a company that is demonstrably recognized globally for its environmental excellence.
Ranking high in EPA lists and sustainability indices, praised for creating genuine shared value through innovations like the needleless injection system.
Yet this same necessary global leader is constantly burdened by enormous financial penalties for profound failures in ethical conduct and safety assurance.
The $100 million anti-competitive settlement aimed at suppressing a safer product.
The $112,700 fine for worker amputations due to repeat workplace safety violations.
And the staggering $60 million fine for deceptive marketing related to serious patient health risks concerning surgical mesh devices.
On top of that, they must consistently manage these global crises involving millions of units, whether it's a manufacturing deviation causing the risk of air embolisms or dealing with the fallout from a decade-long systemic falsification of sterilization documents by a key supply chain partner.
And this complexity is why understanding BD matters to you, the listener. This is the unseen foundation of modern medicine. Every diagnostic test, every vaccine administered, every hospital supply chain is likely touched by this company.
So understanding them means acknowledging the high stakes and the complex, often conflicting risk profile inherent in running a medical device company at this scale.
And that leads us directly to the final provocative thought we want to leave you with.
Okay.
We have firmly established BD's immense financial scale, US $21.8 billion in annual revenue and US $55.3 billion in total assets.
Right. Now hold those numbers in your mind. Then reflect on the largest penalties we discussed: the $100 million anti-competitive settlement and the $60 million fine for deceptive marketing.
When a corporation has $55.3 billion in total assets, that $100 million settlement represents approximately 0.18% of that total.
Less than 1/5 of 1%.
Exactly. So does that level of penalty, which sounds absolutely enormous in isolation, truly function as a deterrent when it represents such a microscopic fraction of the company's financial base?
Does the sheer scale of global operations redefine what a truly punitive or corrective fine needs to be to actually affect corporate behavior?
That proportional analysis is something worth mulling over. It suggests that for companies of this size, legal and ethical compromises might be calculated as simple line items, a cost of doing business, rather than a threat to their core existence.
Thank you for joining us for this deep dive into Becton, Dickinson and Company. We'll see you next time.
Stay curious and keep connecting those dots.